Hello and welcome to Caldwell, Ohio and Apex Con. Today we are showing the $5,000 Apex Invitational Qualifier. I'm Ross Merriam, and with me is Corey Baumeister.
Hey.
We are entering the final round of Swiss, round 6 of 6, and that means it's time to get into the top 8.
Winning in Magic, my second favorite round next to the finals. I love it.
Yeah, we have some players who did well enough in the first 5 rounds. They were able to shake hands and draw in, but there are several matches here and slots in the top 8 left to be determined.
Yep.
We're going to be starting here with a Guide Johnson on Gruul Delirium against James Mangus on the boogeyman of the format, Izzet Prowess.
Love it.
Corey, tell me about this Gruul Delirium deck and what kind of cards it has up its sleeve.
So Gruul Delirium, every single time when I'm commentating like one of the regional championships or something like that, any large standard event, you look at the top at like the win percentage, Gruul Delirium is always there. It's been like the last 3 or 4 tournaments that it just keeps having a high win percentage with low sample size, because not a lot of people play it, but it is a deck that really taxes the deal 2 damage aspect from these Izzet Prowess decks, as there's just a lot of creatures with 3 toughness, and it ends up being a little tough for these Izzet decks to deal with.
Well, that's bad news for James Mangus because his removal suite is heavily biased towards 2 damage. He has 4 copies of First Lighting in the main deck, no copies of Torch the Tower in the main, still 2 of those in the sideboard. But game 1, like you said, it's really going to be tough for him to deal with the fear of missing outs, Keen-Eyed Curators, Patchwork Beasties, Screaming Nemesis, and all the other creatures that deck presents.
Wildfire Wicker Folk also turns into 3 toughness. So, like, if your big answer is having Torch the Tower and having to bargain something, like, that ain't it against this Gruul deck. So this can be a tough matchup for the Izzet deck for sure.
And this Gruul deck, very light on removal itself. It's really just a lot of pump spells. There is 1 Pyroclasm in Guide's main deck.
Just a little one of.
But that's it for actual removal in the main. So I'm expecting this one to be a race.
It's going to be a race, but I do think the Gruul deck is advantage here. It just hits harder. And, I mean, you put Gruul on the play, this is a very, very good match. If you put Izzet on the play, I think it's pretty close, but still maybe even favored by the Gruul Delirium deck. I think it's a good matchup.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we might see Gruul Delirium get into our top 8. Looks like our players are ready in the feature match area, so let's head down there and get this last round of Swiss underway. Players have drawn their hands, and there you go. Guy Johnson on your right leads off with Copperline Gorge into Patchwork Beastie. Wants to get the graveyard full up and hit Delirium as quickly as he can. Mangus replies with Spirebluff Canal into Storm Chaser's Talent. So both players starting on a 1-drop creature. This game is going to come fast and furious. Yeah,
the ideal draws, and, when you can mill stuff over from the Gruul deck, there's a lot of cards that count as 2. There's a lot of artifact creatures, and different things along that line that get you to Delirium pretty quickly. Fear of missing out, enchantment creature, that kind of stuff.
Guided with the Violent Urge to the graveyard off the Beastie trigger, so has 1 type now with instant, follows it up with a Keen-Eyed Curator and a Forest. Mangus has land to himself, Monastery Swiftspear, and now both creatures attack.
Okay. Interesting no block there. I suppose it makes sense, but it would be kind of a clean 2-for-1 if you do put that Keen-Eyed Curator on the Otter. Like, that's not too bad of an exchange if it does get Monstrous Rage. So I might have done that, but I think it's close.
There was the Monstrous Rage in Mangus's hand, but after no blocks are declared, he can just play the Opt, get in his 4 damage, drop Johnson down to 16, and now he can save the Monstrous Rage for a better spot.
Yep.
Johnson, no 3rd land, mills over a Patchwork Beastie on the upkeep, so now he's up to 3 types in graveyard, gets in with the Keen-Eyed Curator, but his defenses are down.
Yeah, no land is pretty brutal, as there's really not a lot that you can do. You can have Overprotect to do some work, but when you're already getting in there, you're not really doing any Overprotect on defense, so... Yeah, not a great turn there from Johnson.
That's a big stumble in a matchup where he can ill afford it.
Yeah. Honestly, just anytime you play against this as a deck, you just can't stumble.
Hey.
Plenty of decks have game against the Izzet deck, but you just cannot be taking turns off against it.
Yeah. Mangus, once again, just getting in for some damage with cantrips. Johnson down to 10 life. Exiles a couple things with the Keen-Eyed Curator, so he uses his mana that way. Can he get this Curator big? There's instant exiled with it. If he exiles his own Beastie and land, he'll take himself off Delirium, but he'll have a 7/7.
Yeah, instant and another card. 2 cards were exiled, so there's something under that op. So pretty easy to get Swole here.
I think it was a sleight of hand, because that was also cast last turn.
Okay.
So that's instant and sorcery. So yeah, he just needs to exile the Beastie.
And what's pretty funny is you can attack and then get rid of Delirium in your yard. But you're still attacking with the Beastie. Oh, boy.
Oh, he did it in the wrong... Oh, he has the Violent Urge.
Yeah.
He needed to Violent Urge first as well.
Oh, no. Oh, no. And I think Guy Johnson mulliganed quite a bit. Like, with only 3 cards in hand, I think we must have mulliganed a few times here. But, yeah, could that have just been game?
That would have been a 19-point attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guide realizing his mistake, he's going to have to hope he gets another turn. Okay.
So did have that regardless, so it wouldn't have really worked out. So, I mean, really nothing mattered. James has this all locked up, it would seem.
Into the Flood Maw bounces the Keen-Eyed Curator, and now Mangus untaps with a handful of pump spells. Do not think we're going to see another turn in game 1.
I do not think so either. Double Monstrous Rage on each of those, and we are all done. Little unfortunate aspect here, because I do think Johnson mulliganed quite a few times.
We mentioned how the Burst Lightnings don't line up well against these creatures, but Into the Flood Maw still works great.
Still works perfectly fine.
And they were key there for Mangus here to take this very quick.
And I mean, the unsummon aspect is a lot better than the burn spells, but if you're still playing threat after threat and you're curving out like this Gruul deck wants to be doing, then the Into the Flood Maws don't look amazing. They stop that kind of big Violent Urge turn, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's really what they're going to be best at, and that's what would have happened there. Had, Guy pressed him to have it. He would have.
Absolutely.
Okay, player's going to move to the sideboard here. Taking a look, starting with Guide Johnson's down a game here. Sideboard is 1 Chandra Spark Hunter, 1 Convenient Target, 1 Haywire Might, 1 Heritage Reclamation, 1 Lithomantic Barrage, 2 Pick Your Poison, a second copy of Pyroclasm, 2 Scorching Shot, 2 Scrap Shooter, the 4th copy of Screaming Nemesis, and 2 Sunspine Links, there. Corey, what do you like here for this Izzet Prowess match?
I definitely like the Scrap Shooter. That looks really good to me. Being able to gift your opponent a card and take out their Corey Steelcutter, that looks pretty good. Everything else is a big answer to other, temporary lockdowns, being able to make sure you deal with that because, well, that card is everywhere right now and it's quite good up against these Gruul decks. Outside of that, it's just really how aggressive do you want to target the Corey Steelcutter, or do you just want to be as aggressive as possible? I would think I want to just be as aggressive as possible, put in the cards that are really good like Scrap Shooter, and keep my deck relatively intact. Maybe cut a couple Violent Urges, but not a lot I want to change. I would probably bring in the second Pyroclasm, though, as if your opponent goes really wide with a bunch of monks. I think that still looks pretty solid. And maybe the Screaming Nemesis on the play. It's really how many Violent Urges you want out of the deck, or Overprotect, as they look like the worst cards to me.
Okay. And then looking at James Mangus's sideboard, has 1 Disdainful Stroke, a 3rd Drake Catcher, 1 Enduring Curiosity, 2 Ghost Vacuum, 2 Lithomantic Barrage, 1 Negate, 2 Ral Crackling Wit, 1 Rebel Salvo, 2 Spell Pierce, and 2 Torch the Tower. What's going to be coming in here for James?
Not great here either. I would like the Torch the Towers, the Rebel Salva. I also think I like Drake Catcher on the play and don't like it on the draw. That looks pretty nice to me. Get rid of some of these Burst Lightnings. I mean, they just look pretty bad. Torch the Towers, the upgrade. Rebel Salva is like the only card I'm pumped about out of all these things. You can also get a little frisky if you want with the Enduring Curiosity, but I would stick with the first 3 cards for sure.
No additional bounce spells is a big loss here. That's something I'd like to see, but not coming for Mangus.
Yep, absolutely.
Looks like Guy Johnson took a mulligan here to start game 2.
Not again.
Saw him send one back. Try to find a better hand here. And I think this one's a keep. So
see some fear of missing out. Keen-Eyed Curator. If you got 2 lands and you can curve out with those cards, looks great to me. No 1-drop is a bit of a disappointment, though.
Just a Copperline Gorge on turn 1. Now off to Mangus. Does he have another 1-drop like he had in game 1?
Yeah, and this deck, the Gruul Delirium deck, does only play the 1/1 drop. You know, Llanowar Elf is an option in this format, but you're not really going 1 to 3 very effectively. There are a few 3s, but you're really wanting to just play beefy creature after beefy creature. So while it feels wrong to have a Gruul aggressive deck and not play Llanowar Elf, I totally agree with it here.
Okay. River Piraverge and Swift Spear is the start for Mangus, so Johnson down to 19 from the attack, and we'll see what he has on turn 2. It's another Gorge and a Fear of Missing Out. That one's going to discard a Treefolk. Wildfire Wickerfolk, sorry. Oof.
Close enough.
Say that one before I
Little unfortunate there.
Yeah, just a Corey Steel Cutter for Mangus on turn 2, so the Swift Spear is a 2/3, cannot attack into the Fear of Missing Out. A little reprieve here for Guy Johnson, see what he can get going. Has a breakout. This will add a 3rd type to Delirium, needs 1 more to really turn the deck on.
Big game. This would have been a really nice turn for a scrap shooter. Be able to gift a card to get that pesky artifact out of there.
Okay, this is another Fear of Missing Out. So this discards an instant or a land or an enchantment. That would complete Delirium for Guy Johnson.
And they could both do a little action here. Okay. That is just a creature. So... no Delirium.
No Delirium, but both of them have haste, so Guide will come across for 4 damage. Mangus down to 16. Still no 3rd land for Guy Johnson, so just a pass of the turn. Now Mangus has a mountain.
Did have a Violent Urge in hand there, I saw, as a quick flash, so could have added 4 extra points of damage here, but looking to, you know, maybe use that card to a little bit better use.
Okay, a 2nd Cutter and a Storm Chaser's Talent means that Mangus has a big attack here for 7.
Okay.
Down to 12 and likely dead on the next turn, but he might be able to kill right now.
Oh, the tap land has got to be a pain.
Well, it could complete Delirium.
It did.
Here we go. Commercial District. And
so there's also a Pyroclasm, though. Pfft. Hard to argue with that one. Buys you time, plus your opponent takes 6. Or it takes 8, excuse me.
An attack for 8, but is the Violent Urge lethal?
So it would have to be your opponent wouldn't block or would block right away. And then you Violent Urge, and it would be 6, 7, 8. I think it would only be 8.
It would be 10. It would be 10 if they don't block, right?
Yeah.
You get an 8 for the first attack, and then they block the double striker, take 2 more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a little bit short, but if Mangus had blocked, he's dead.
Yeah. Okay.
So Guide plays it safe, just goes for the Pyroclasm. Understandable. Now, does Mangus have any way to interact with these Fear of Missing Outs? Has land 4 and just another Storm Chaser's Talent. Looks like an Into the Floodmaw and a Monstrous Rage are the 2 cards remaining in hand.
And you have to proactively play the Into the Floodmaw, even though it sucks, or you put it on this Otter, which feels pretty bad. But, I mean, honestly, I think the safe play... and maybe the correct play is if James just Monstrous Rages his own Otter to get some tokens, but this could lead to some trouble for sure on the crackback.
He goes for the bounce spell, so one of the Fear of Missing Outs now in Guide's hand, makes 2 monks with Flurry, gets in for 4. Does he want to blow the Monstrous Rage? He does not. That would have been 5 more damage. He wants to make 2 more monks next turn as well.
Okay. Ooh, that's pretty good. That might just do it right there.
Yeah, this should be lethal, right? So the Tree Folk gets to come in. You untap the Wicker Folk. You untap the Wicker Folk with Fear of Missing Out. Mangus has to block the Wicker Folk, or the Violent Urge is lethal.
Yeah, it's all depending on what you do from... oh, then it's got to be lethal, right?
And Mangus goes for a Monstrous Rage after blocking, but the Violent Urge on Wildfire Wicker Folk...
that should be 10 damage straight away. All right.
Yeah.
Violent Urge gets it done.
Mangus getting a little punished there for having for using the bounce spell aggressively. It's what you want to do generally with your Corey Steel Cutter deck, but against the Gruul Delirium deck, they have a bunch of pump spells that you really need to save your bounce spells for. Make sure you bounce the creature that's been pumped.
And it was all because of the Pyroclasm. If the Pyroclasm wasn't there, you didn't have to make that play, and you could just attack, Monstrous Rage, something, say go. Who cares if you don't activate the Corey Steel Cutter again? and then play defensive with the Into the Floodmaw. So, yeah. All credit to Pyroclasm for that game.
A great tool in this matchup because you need a bunch of pump spells in order to race effectively.
Yeah.
So you have very little room for interaction in the Gruul Delirium deck. Pyroclasm is an interactive card that you can bring in that does a ton of work in the right spot. It killed 3 creatures that game.
Yeah, and none of Johnson's creatures. That's the main thing. It's like none of his cards actually died of Pyroclasm, so makes that card really, really strong. If that wasn't the case, and you're just bringing in Pyroclasm, in a vacuum against these Izzet decks, not great. These tokens keep coming back, But the fact that it is a tempo play in this deck, which is kind of strange, but pretty good.
So we are going to get a game 3 in this matchup while our players shuffle up and potentially re-sideboard. I'd like to shout out our sponsors for the weekend, SpiceRack.gg, who runs our tournament software. Can't put this on without them. If you are a player, SpiceRack.gg is a great source of deck lists. If you are, and tournaments, and if you're a tournament organizer, SpiceRack.gg is a great partner to work with to run your tournament smoothly. We have Moxfield, who hosts all of our deck lists via SpiceRack. A great tool for deck builders, great tool for collectors. Check out Moxfield as well, and thank you to them. And then, of course, Once Upon a Galaxy, new auto battler. Assemble a crew as you sail across a diverse and spectacular galaxy of your favorite storybook characters, legends of myth, and other cosmic entities. Shout out to them as well.
Did you just come up with that? That was nice.
I'm a man of many words.
Wow, you really are. You got a gift.
Okay, game 3 is underway. James Mangus comes out once again with a turn 1 Monastery Swift Spear off of Spire Bluff Canal.
Oof.
Guy Johnson, once again, does not have a 1-drop, just a Copperline Gorge.
And no access to any Torch the Tower, anything like that. We've seen those cards from these Gruul decks in the past, maybe in small numbers. But, you have the unbeatable 1-drop. Seed of Hope. Let's go.
Mangus with just a second Swift Spear, no cantrip off the island played. He certainly would have played one if he had it.
Yes. He did have it, though. He has an opt-in hand.
Oh, wow.
Do we have a Spell Pierce as well? No, I don't see one. Wow. And then goes with the Bushwhack. Let's see. Is there an Into the Floodmaw as well?
Patchwork Beastie, Bushwhack, that hits. So 1 Swift Spear down. And Bushwhack is sorcery, Seed of Hope is instant, and there's a land left from the seed. So 3 card types towards Delirium for Guy Johnson. He could have it next turn with this Patchwork Beastie. Mangus plays a 3rd Swift Spear and now plays the Opt. Has a Mountain as his land for turn. Is attacking for 4. So Johnson down to 15.
Had to opt into an untapped land to be able to just attack through. Still has land stock up next turn, which will be strong.
Big mill for Guy Johnson, just hits another land, so still no Delirium. Patchwork Beastie cannot attack.
So Johnson could go for the play that would kind of be a blowout for him. And so if he goes for the Pyroclasm, there is the counter spell from James's side with the Monstrous Rage. So nice heads-up play not going for that. It just felt, it's too face-up. You got to think that the Monstrous Rage is there. Otherwise, that attack last turn looked real suspicious.
And Mangus, also held up the Cantrip last turn.
Yeah.
Play around that Pyroclasm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's why he's been playing this game a little bit slow, wants to play around that card. But slow playing it might punish him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. It might be the technically correct play, but
Johnson plays a Fear of Missing Out on his turn. Discarded a Wicker Folk, so that is full Delirium. The Beastie gets in. Mangus down to 17. And now Mangus has a stock up on his turn with land 4. Let's see what he can find, what he can do with this last mana to press his advantage. So right now the Swift Spears are 2/3s. They can attack into the Fear of Missing Out. Just a Storm Chaser's talent, an attack for 6.
Was so patient playing around the Pyroclasm, but now the Pyroclasm gets to feast. And we almost assuredly have Delirium now, so
had it last turn.
Yeah.
So the Beastie was able to get in.
So Pyroclasm is the baseline play, but is there even better ones? But wow. Take 8. Right, if you remember?
No, misses the Fear of Missing Out.
No!
So just 5. Mangus down to 9, but he's untapping with no board.
Is that not Delirium, maybe? It looks like it's got to be, right?
The Beastie
Artifact
can attack
creature.
without it.
Yeah, good point.
Right. Mangus has a torch the tower, so that's, I think, step one here. Deal with the fear of missing out, most likely. That's got to be the scarier creature.
You would think so. But also, you got to be afraid. You know, this is not an open deckless tournament. Snakeskin Veil could totally be around. We know there's not any in the list, but it's something to be afraid of.
Mangus is getting greedy here. He wants to play the spells on Guide's turn to pump this Otter. So just a Storm Chaser's talent and a pass of the turn for him. We'll see how Guide plays it.
Oh, God, Screaming Nemesis, one of the options. Guide's hand looks great.
Goes for the Nemesis, and now... Oh, Mangus even lets him attack.
Yeah, okay, goes back, says, oh yeah, I have to do something about this right now.
Yeah, Torch with Bargain, hit the fear of missing out. Mangus going to scry one, likes what he sees, leaves it on top. Now we have a 2/2 Otter against a Screaming Nemesis and a Patchwork Beastie.
Oh, I don't love attacking with that Patchwork Beastie. Yeah. Any one-spell trades or the Monstrous Rage that was kind of pretty apparent just eats it.
Yeah, I think Mangus is going to eat this Beastie with the Rage. Still will take 3 from the Nemesis and drop down to 6.
Yeah.
6 staring down a Screaming Nemesis. And Mangus not playing any copies of Unable to Scream, which is a very common sideboard card in Izzet Prowess that lines up well against Nemesis. He has to win a tempo game against it with bounce spells.
Which is brutal. Which is very brutal. And there's a couple Bushwhacks in the deck from Guy Johnson. If you can... Did we take it?
Yeah, Mangus just took it.
Are we going for the win then, it looks like, huh? So this Otter with the Monstrous Rage, I mean, that's 5 damage already. If we can pair something with it...
He has an opt. Oh, no, he saw Monstrous Rage off the Torch.
Oh.
And this is just lethal on the crackback.
Wow.
And knew it. That's why he doesn't block.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is 10 damage if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, you only get the one roll, but that's all Mangus needs. Hoisted by his own petard is Guy Johnson. A flurry of pump spells, and Mangus is going to take this game and match.
Wow.
5-1 and secure a spot in our top 8.
That was a wild match. Very aggressive from both ends. Played out as fast as it possibly could, but really, really impressive play.